Indiana Steel, we are back for the final episode in this series. So, with NHL 25 literally around the corner, it is coming out tomorrow for early access. I've decided that it was time to close out this first NHL franchise mode series that we are doing on this channel. Um, this was a lot of fun. I've learned a lot doing this series in terms of how I wanted to present my franchise modes, which is great. And I'm going to use that and start a fresh, brand new one in NHL 25. I don't think I'll be doing that in the early release just yet. I kind of want to play with the game a little bit, adapt to all the new changes in NHL 25. Once I've gotten myself accustomed a little bit, we'll jump in, get a brand new series going, and have some fun with NHL 25 franchise mode. But for now, I wanted to kind of give this series an ending. I know we only had basically 2-3 seasons done so far in here. So I'm going to basically fast forward through a few years, kind of just see the highlights, the glimpses of everything, seeing how Jackson Culp's career develops. And then after that, we'll just kind of tie it all up. I'm not sure if I'm going to do 5 seasons or 8 seasons, but basically just kind of fast forwarding through everything. I'm going to simplify things for me to make sure it doesn't take forever to do. I turned injuries off and I put auto scouting on. So that way I don't have to stop every month, do the adjustments for scouting, and I also don't have to edit the lines every week every time there's an injury. So with that being said, I'm going to start simming. We can go to the trade deadline. I'll come back up at the trade deadline, see what we want to do with this team, make a couple trades if we want to, and then move on from there. If we make the playoffs, I'll show the playoffs. If not, at the end of each season, I'll just kind of do a rundown of the stats, who did what, how we're looking, how the league's looking, who won what in trophies and things like that. And then we'll just keep doing that season after season and seeing how well or bad the Indiana Steel can become. So let me just sim to trade deadline, and once we get there, I'll come right back and we can take a look at what this team is looking like and what we can do for the playoff push or the fire sale. Here we are at the trade deadline, and we did pretty damn well so far. So in the Central, we are 29, 26, and 7 with 65 points. It puts us fourth, only 1 point behind the Predators, which is not too bad. And then for our team leaders, as we can see here, Jackson Culp taking the lead here with 49 points, 19 goals, 30 assists, doing really, really well. Jack Quinn, 18 goals. We also have Adam Lowry with 16 goals. So we got a pretty good team here in terms of scoring. Plus minus pretty much good across the board. Only Moser and Miller that are having a rough time. Maybe something we want to look at. But so far, really, it's going pretty well for this season, which is great. And if you compare them to the entire league, so entire league, we are far behind. Dylan Larkin with 89 points in 62 games. It's ridiculous. Jack Hughes, 78 points. Pasternak, 75. Carlson, 74. McDavid at 73. So, yeah. At 49 points, we're not even close to the top. So, I'm actually surprised we're doing so well. If we take a look at the goalies, though. So, Olmark leading the charge. Skinner, Saros, Levi. As for us, Dustin Wolf doing phenomenal in terms of save percentage and goals against. Our goalies are basically doing the exact same thing. 921, 252, 920, 252. So not so bad, but we are basically 500 with Wolf and basically 500 with Portillo. So nothing great, but, you know, holding us high enough to get some wins. In terms of team stats now, so Blackhawks are first with 74 points. The Wild, Predators in our Central Division. And then when we look at the entire league, the Panthers 88 points, Bruins 87, Sabres 81. So Sabres are turning around. Canadians as well are up there, so not too bad. So for power play percentage, we're not at the bottom. We're not at the top. So we're right in the middle. Penalty kill, not at the top, not at the bottom. So we're doing okay. Let's just take a look and try to find ourselves to see where we're at. Okay, so our penalty kill is at 85.6, which is really good. It's towards the top half. And our power play is at 16.2. So probably right in the middle. Yeah, it seems to be right in the middle here. So not too bad. All right, so let's go see what is available in the trade deadline. If there's anything interesting, I'll show you. If not, I'll just kind of give a quick recap of what happened, and then we can move on from there. Okay, so I found a trade here that I want to do. I'm going after William Karlsson. I want to get a top line center. He's on an expiring contract on Vegas. I can take Karlsson off. They can get Lowry. They want Lowry, they want Marino, and they want the third. I think it's a pretty good deal. They're up against the cap. They have extensions. Yes, they're in a playoff push, but Lowry fills in that role and they up their D. I think it's a good trade all around, and I want someone at the top of this lineup to help bring us into the playoffs. So I'm going to propose this trade and see how it goes. There we go, trade accepted. So we have improved our top line center, moves everybody down, makes this team a little bit better overall. So I think that was a great move. Okay, so after the trade deadline, this is what the lines are going to be moving forward. So it's going to be Karlsson with Culp and Kempe, Doc with Gregor and Quinn, Greg with Kaliev and Hemming, Granlund with Sherry and Niederreiter. On defense, Miller and Barron, Joseph and Moser, and Gerard and Harley. So that's what we're going to rock with for now, and then see if we can make the postseason. And the Minnesota Wild put Jeremy Lauzon on waivers. And looking at this, I think I want to pick him up to have him as our 7th D. So we are picking up Lauzon. Okay, so unfortunately, the second half of the season didn't go as expected. We are missing the playoffs. We finished with 82 points. Our division was god-awful. If you compare it to the other side, it looks like they have all the wild card spots. So not great on our end. Weak division, and we couldn't even make it. So we are going to sim through the playoffs, and then I'll update you with all the stats. And here you have it, your Stanley Cup champions, the Vancouver Canucks, Calder Cup champions, the Tucson Roadrunners, and here are the draft lottery results. So St. Louis gets it, Seattle moves up, and Anaheim to round it off. We are 10th and staying 10th, and we also have Ottawa's at 17, so we have 2 top 17 picks in this draft. All right, in terms of stats for the year, Culp led us with 64 points and 27 goals. Quinn and Kempe 56 and 53. And our deadline pickup Karlsson 52 points. Let's go see what he did with us specifically. So if we look at Indiana, he had 11 points in 20 games, only 1 goal. So not exactly what I was expecting when picking up Karlsson. Sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. Looks like we lost it. If we look at the goalies, Wolf 918, 257. Portillo 910, 287. So not great, but also not awful. So we finished 37, 37, and 8. As for the awards, let's see if we got anything. So Stanley Cup champions, obviously Vancouver Canucks. Florida Panthers won the President's Trophy. And Montreal was the Prince of Wales winner. And then if we go into individual awards, Art Ross to Larkin, Hart Memorial Larkin, James Norris to Montour, Eric Carlson, Lady Bing, Cristal the Calder Memorial, Conn Smythe to Hughes, Vezina to Levi, William Jennings to Olmark, Otteson with the Bill Masterton, Jack Adams to Spalling, and the Selke to Stutzla, Ted Lindsay to Larkin, and the Maurice Richard to Matthews. And as for the playoff tree, let's take a look here. So Chicago beat Nashville, Vancouver beat Minnesota, Edmonton over Arizona, and then Vegas lost to San Jose. And then Vancouver moved on against Chicago, and Edmonton moved on. And Vancouver swept Edmonton 4-0 to make it to the finals. As for Montreal, they started off 4-2 against Florida. They beat Buffalo 4-3 against the Rangers. Again, game 7, 4-3. And then they lost in the finals against Vancouver. All right, so let's jump in to the draft and see what we've got. All right, so with the 10 pick here, we will be picking, who do we want? Okay, I'm not sure who to go with, but we have Central Scouting putting Wilkinson at 6. We have him at 7. I think this is a steal if we're looking at this correctly, so let's give it a shot. Okay, so top 4D medium, not too bad. 78 overall out of the box. Pretty good pick, I think. And with the 17th pick, we have probably 2 left wingers to pick from. We know Silverthorne is a top 9 board high. I would hope that we can get something better than top 9. So I'm going to skip Silverthorne and go with Henrik Lindstrom. And he's a top 6 medium, 65 overall. Not bad. Next up, pick 39. We will be picking... Okay, so we have a lot of defensemen here available with Keeling. Okay, so Keeling, top 4D, 76 overall. Damn, we are killing them picks right now. Okay, so this guy is completely unknown, yet our scouts still want us to take him, which is weird. But you know what? I need a center right wing, so why not take a shot at him and see what happens. Here we go. Top 9 forward medium, 60 overall. Not great, but okay. Next up, pick 109. Here, let's try this guy. He has elite. It's low, but could be something. Jaden Gainey, 56 overall, top 9 low. And there are your picks. Here we go. So that's the first season in the books. Let's move on to the next. All right, that's the first season in the books. Let me do the re-sign and the free agency, and we'll jump into the next. Okay, so after the offseason, this is what we're looking at. So our team took a little bit of a step back. There was some key players in free agency that I was trying to go after, and they ended up going somewhere else. So we have Doc at center with Culp and Kempe, Greg and a new signing Lawson Krause with Quinn, Hemming with Gregor and Kaliev, Stenberg with Shiri and Perot. On defense, we cleaned up house a little bit, but we did keep Miller and paired him up with the new acquisition Pesci, with Moser and Barron at the second, and Joseph and Lauzon at the third. In net, we still have Dustin Wolf, who's an absolute monster. 90 overall, a bunch of X factors. It's going to be amazing to have him in nets. Just that alone should give us a ton of wins. So as you can see here, he has Tip Jar as his zone ability, and then Superstar ability we have Light Work, Handled It, Sponge, X-Ray, and Butterfly Effect. So he should be lights out this year, even with a slightly subpar team. And once again, I'll sim to the trade deadline and see where we're at with this team. Before we got started with this season, the Anaheim Ducks offered us a trade, Troy Terry and a third for 2 seconds and Wielander. Wielander we have no plans for. The second round picks have been quite honestly a little bit awful. And by having Terry on the right wing, we can move one of our right wingers to the left, kind of solidify the lineup a little bit and take one of those low overalls and in the fourth line out of this lineup. So at 3 years, $7 million, yes, it's a little bit rich, but he's 86 overall. And worst case, we can always flip him in a year or two, recoup some assets, or we can flip somebody else if he ends up working out really well. So I'm going to accept this trade and then have him on the team, and hopefully it'll help us out. We're here at the trade deadline of 2028. So far, we had a really slow start to the season, but we picked it up in the new year. We are 31, 28, and 4 with 66 points. We are 4th in the Central. And Jackson Culp at an 89 overall is finally playing as Jackson Culp that we expected. 64 points in 63 games. Troy Terry, our acquisition at the start of the year, 61 points in 63 games. Kempe, 56. So that top line is rolling. Doc, Kraus, and Quinn, 38, 34, 33, so not too bad. So I think so overall this team is doing really well. If we look at the goalies, Dustin Wolf, 25, 22, and 3, and 898 save percentage is god awful, and a 324 goals against. So the fact that we have that many wins and he's playing this poorly pretty much tells you that our defense is garbage, but we're scoring goals. So maybe we'll look at improving the D-core at the trade deadline. But right now, Wolf needs to pick it up if we want a shot at the playoffs. Compared to the entire league, again, Larkin just crazy right now. 94 points. Next up is at 80 points, so he has a 14-point lead on second place. Kane, Stützle, DeBrincat, Pasternak, so pretty much the same guys all the time. McDavid and Bedard at 68 points apiece. And here we are, Culp at 64 down here with everybody else. So, not too bad. We're a lot better off than we were last year in terms of points and production, so that's good. And for our standings, we are 4th in the Central, as I mentioned. In the entire league, we're not at the top of power play percentage. We are at the bottom, which is not good. For penalty killing, we're not at the bottom. We're not at the top, so where are we? We're actually pretty low. 81.3% penalty kill, so not great. Our special teams are letting us down. Okay, so let's take a quick look at our lines so we can see what we're trying to look for at the deadline. So as we can see here, Culp, Terry, and Kempe, they're a +5. Quinn, Doc, and Kraus. Kaliev, Greg, and Hemming. Sheary, Ottenberg, and Gregor. I think our offense is good. On defense, Miller and Pesci. Pesci regressed 1 overall point. Barron and Moser, Joseph, and Lauzon. So I really think we should try to flip someone and an asset to improve our D-core. Maybe get someone on the right-hand side with Miller. Move Pesci down. Maybe move Lauzon or Barron out of this lineup. Barron, I've given plenty of opportunity, and he's not growing. So I'm not going to wait much longer for him to develop. I don't think it's happening. Once again, heading into the deadline, if there's anything interesting, I will let you know. If not, I'll just come back out, give you a quick summary of what happened. Alright, so Seth Jones was on the block. We need a right-handed defenseman. He's 85 overall. He has a massive cap hit, but I'll ask Chicago to retain a bit. From that, I added a 4th for the retain. They wanted Gregor, the Ducks 3rd, and Kidney. Gregor, we can do parts with. We can replace him with someone else. Kidney, not really in my plans for now. So let's try and see how this one goes. Okay, so they don't want to retain any salary. Maybe if I remove a bit, let's do 1.2 maybe. Try this again. Okay, so they do not want to retain anything. Let's give it a go. There we go. So we got Seth Jones added to the D-core. Hopefully that helps us out a little bit. So after the trade deadline, this is what our lines look like. Obviously the forward core isn't really touched. We just have Connor Sheary coming in here to replace Gregor. And then on defense, we have Miller and Jones, and then Pesci, Moser, Joseph, and Barron. Now let's continue on and see if we can make the postseason. Alright, so it looks like we just missed the postseason. If you look here, we are at 85 points. Avalanche are at 89 points, and they still have a game to play. And then the Sharks, 88 points. So we missed it by 3, basically. But let's take a look at the points leaders. Culp led the way with 78 points. He had 29 goals. Terry, 32 goals, 77 points. Kempe, 20 goals, 50 assists, 70 points to round it off. For our goalies, I think that's probably going to be our demise. So Dustin Wolf picked it up a little bit towards the end, 903 with a 307. Same thing with Portillo, 904, 316. So pretty consistent across the board for both, but not a good consistent. Now let's see how the playoffs shake out. And here you have it, an all-Canadian championship. The Toronto Maple Leafs have won the Stanley Cup. and the Laval Rocket have won the Calder Cup. So congratulations, Canada. We finally all over these trophies. Now here we go, draft lottery results. Ottawa gets the #1 overall pick, and then we are all the way down at 15th. All right, here's a playoff tree. So Toronto had to go through Florida, then win Game 7 against New Jersey. They then beat out Pittsburgh 4-1. On the west side, Chicago beat Minnesota in Game 7. They then took care of Dallas 4-2. And then against Vancouver 4-1. And they lost in a Game 7 versus Toronto. As for the awards, we can see here Toronto Maple Leafs with the Cup, President's Trophy to Detroit, Chicago with Clarence Campbell, and Toronto with the Prince of Wales. As for the individual awards, Larkin for his second year in a row with Hart Ross, the Hart Memorial. James Norris goes to Carlson, Lady Byng to Carlson, Calder Memorial to Jenks, Marner wins the Conn Smythe, Vezina to Comesso, William Jennings to Comesso, Chernak with the Bill Masterton, Spalling 4 years in a row with the Jack Adams for Spalling. That is insane. Selke to Cooley, Ted Lindsay again with Larkin, and Maurice Richard goes to Pasternak. All right, then we'll head into the NHL entry draft and see who we can add to this team. All right, so we have the 15th pick. Ottawa's looking to trade the first overall. Let's see if it's worth our time. Another elite left winger. Not sure I want to get another winger. There's a playmaker, center. Okay, so I'm not going to trade. With the 15th overall pick, we are selecting, I think I'm going to go with Jack Wesley, playmaking center. He's a 66 top 6 medium center. Next up, pick 114 in the 4th round. We are going to go with Glenn Coe. Top 4 low, not bad. Okay, and there's not much left in here, so I'll just sim to the end. There we go. We ended up with Lebedev, Giordano, and Michelli. And as always, I'll do the re-sign in off-season, and I'll see you in season number 3 of this video. Here's a look at the lines for this upcoming season. We have Terry on the first line with Culp and Kempe, still at a +5. Second line is Doc with Krause and Quinn. Third line is our free agent acquisition Strome with Greg and Kaliev. And then on the 4th line, we have Emming, Clarkson, and Perreault. On defense, we have one new signing. So we have Miller with Dursey that we picked up. We have Pesci and Harley, and then we have Brodin as well. Sorry, that's the second pickup with Barron. And as always, in nets, we have Wolf with Portillo. Wolf is an 89 overall this year. He had a pretty off year last year. So hopefully he can go back into the right direction and keep growing again. And let's take a look at what we can do this season. So once again, see you at the trade deadline. All right, here we are at the trade deadline, and we are having an incredible year so far. We are 31, 23, and 8 at 70 points. At one point, we started off the season at 13, 1, and 2. So you do the math, how it's been a little bit struggly after that, but it's been good so far. As for the points for this team, Culp has 64 points in 62 games, 30 goals already. Terry 49 points, Kempe 48. Second line doing well as well with Krause at 34, Quinn at 33. If we look at our goalies, Wolf 911 save percentage, 271 goals against, and Portillo is standing on his head. 8-1-1, a 932 save percentage, and a 225 goals against. He's playing lights out at an 84 overall, and Wolf still at 89. If we compare ourselves to the rest of the league, Stutzla, 81 points. Bedard at 80. So looks pretty reasonable here. Not bad. Culp pretty high up this time. So looking good for us. So right now, let's take a quick look at the line, see if there's anything we want to improve on. But I think we're going to pretty much stay put where we are. So Culp, Terry, Kempe, that's all good. Kraus is declining a little bit with Doc and Quinn, Greg, Strome, and Kaliev. So I might move Kraus down to the second, Greg up with Doc and Quinn. But I think that's it for here. On defense, Miller and Dursey, Harley and Pesci, Brodin and Barron. If I see a defenseman, like an elite defenseman that's on the block, I might pick them up, but we shall see. So yeah, I'm not expecting to do anything, but if there's a elite defenseman, I might make a move. Okay, so we have a Lindholm here from Boston. They're looking for 2 seconds and Hybert that we drafted last draft or the one just before. I'm good with getting rid of him. We're in win now mode. I'm done looking for prospects. Let's just see if he fits on our lines. All defensive pairings, all power play, but he doesn't fit at 5-on-5. I think his X factors can kind of pull him through. So in reverse, quick pick, Sendik, yoink, relentless. So all that's looking good. I'm actually really interested in this, and I think I'm going to pull the trigger on it. Yeah, let's give it a go. And there we go. We added Lindholm to the defensive core. So the big trade to announce here, Jarvis to Boston for a third. And in return, Carolina gets Carlo and 2 seconds. I think they used some of the seconds from our trade to complete this trade. So good on Boston. Okay, so these are the lines we are going to finish the season off with. Terry with Culp and Kempe, Doc with Greg and Quinn, Strome with Kraus and Kaliev, Hemming with Clarkson and Perreault. On defense, the newly acquired Lindholm on the top line with Dursey, Miller and Pesci, Brodin and Barron. I just want to try one quick thing here. Okay, so it's going to be this instead. It's going to be Lindholm and Miller, Dursey and Pesci, Brodin and Barron. Okay, let's sim to the end and hope we make the playoffs. And here we go. We finally made the playoffs here. We are going to be playing Vancouver in our first round matchup. But before we do that, let's take a look back at our season. So Jackson Culp, 41 goals, 40 assists for 81 points. Terry, 67. Kempe, 61. Kaliev, Quinn, Kraus, 49, 46, 41. So not too bad all around. Lindholm, let's see how he did after we picked him up. So with the steal, he had 4 points in 19 games, but he was a +4. Not too bad at all for Hampus Lindholm. Wolf improved a little bit, 914, 264. And then Portillo, not so good. He was 8-1-1. He's now 9-7-2. So he went 1-6-1 and dropped his save percentage and goals against. Compared to the league, though, Culp with his 81 points ends up being not too far off the lead. Stutzla and Draisaitl both at 107 and 106. Bedard at 100 and at 81. Okay, it drops Culp probably just outside the top 20, but still a pretty good season for him nonetheless. As for the Vancouver Canucks, this is what we're going up against. Pettersson, 95 overall with Miller and Besser. Elias Lindholm, 86 overall with Hoglander and Garland. Ratti with Bennett and Dverberg. Asplund, Stamkos, and Zadina. On defense, Hughes, Honek, Evans, Coughlin, Nikishin, and Bryson. So other than their first pair, the defense is really, really awful. But their offense is strong top to bottom. And in nets, they have Thatcher Demko at a 90 overall, backing him up Ville Husso. So it's going to be a big challenge for us. I doubt that we make it out of the first round, but we never know. So let's sim the first 3 games and see where we're at. Lose the first, lose the second, lose the third. So it looks like we're going to get swept here. And there it is. Our first playoff appearance in a long time, and we're swept in the first round. So that's how our season's going to end. Let's see who wins and who gets the awards. And it looks like the Stanley Cup is staying in Canada after Toronto. It is now the Edmonton Oilers who are hoisting the Stanley Cup, and the Texas Stars get the Calder. As for the draft lottery results, Arizona moves 5-1, and we are not on anything here, so we will be drafting as a playoff team. All right, for the awards for this season, Oilers with the Stanley Cup, Sabres with the President's Trophy, Clarence Campbell to the Oilers, Prince of Wales to the Devils. Individual awards, Stützle with the Art Ross, good for him. Hart Memorial to Stützle, James Norris to Carlson again, Lady Byng to Carlson again, Calder to Denis Pepin, Conn Smythe to McDavid, Vezina to Ottinger, William Jennings to Ottinger, Bill Masterton to Otavainen, Jack Adams to Kane, so Spalling's streak is over, Selke to Bedard, Ted Lindsay to Stützle, and the Maurice Richard to Pasternak. Okay, time for the draft. Okay, so we have pick 18 here. I'm going to see if anybody wants our pick. Okay, so Pittsburgh's giving us 2 seconds, and yeah, it's just Pittsburgh. So I'm going to keep it, and I'm going to draft with it. I was hoping to maybe get rid of it to a team that wanted it, because I kind of want the next season to be the last one, but it is what it is. Let's see who we can get. So we have Solomon Weiss or Parker Nelson. Weiss, according to our scouts, is obviously the pick. So let's go with Solomon Weiss. He's a top 6, 65, not too bad. As for our second round pick, this is from the Devils. Not much information here. We do have a gem with Alexei Kovalev. So let's take a shot at him. Top 6 low. Not sure how much of a gem that is, but hey, it is what it is. This pick we will go with, why not, Rodney McDonald. High elite potential, but not fully scouted, so we'll see if that's the case. High elite. Wow. That's a good pick for a goalie. Okay, so I'm going to sim the rest here. These draft picks don't really have any relevance. There we go. We ended up with Kolamainen, Franjapan, Bell, and Skinner. Okay, I'll go through the offseason, and we'll meet back here for our last season of the Indiana Steel in NHL 24. If I can do a big trade and get a huge asset, I will. So be on the lookout for that when we come back. Let's see what we can do here in the offseason. Okay, so for the last season of the Indiana Steel, we've made some pretty substantial additions. First up, on our top line, we now have Marco Rossi with Culp and Kempe. On the second line, we have Quinn, Doc, and Terry. And then on the third line, we have Suzdalev that we traded for with Washington, Greg, and Kaliev. And then on the fourth line, we have Clarkson, Strome, and Lucius. On defense, we have Miller with Wilkinson, Lindholm and Dursey, Barron and Lundqvist. This will change a little bit. We have Gabriel Perreault that we can add to this lineup as well. He's just an RFA right now that I'm dealing with. And then for the goalies, we have Wolf, and we brought back Portillo as well as the backup. So that has not changed. One thing that we did do though during the offseason is that we went out and got a new coach. We moved Stafford down from head coach to associate coach, and we went out and got Clark. He works really, really well with some of our players, so I thought may as well mix it up for the last year and see how this goes. Everything else is pretty much the same. So let me just go deal with the contracts to make sure everyone is good and ready, and then I'll give you one last look at the lines and we can get started. Okay, contract situation figured out. We were missing Perreault and Hemming, so I added them. So Rossi, Culp, Kempe, Doc, Quinn, Terry, Greg, Kaliev, Perot, and Strom, Suzdalev, and Hemming. On defense, it's going to be Miller, Dursey, Lindholm, Wilkinson, Barron, and Lundqvist. And let's sim to the trade deadline and see where we're at. All right, here we are at the trade deadline. We are doing great. We are 36, 19, and 7. That puts us second in the Central behind the Blackhawks, who are 39, 15, and 8. As for our points leader, Jackson Culp, 59 points, 26 goals. Marco Rossi, 58 points, and Terry at 56. Everybody else following suit over here. As for our goalies, Dustin Wolf, 28, 15, and 6, 908, and a 281. Portillo, 8, 5, and 1, 900, 322. Compared to the entire league, not even close. Svechnikov, Bedard, 102. And then after that, it falls off by 22 points to Draisaitl. So, pretty crazy drop off here. So for the trade deadline, I don't expect to do anything. I have my draft, my trade block set to get rid of all our first and second round picks in exchange for high level players. So we'll see how that goes. I don't expect to have anything here, but we'll see. Okay, so turns out that a right shooting Drysdale is available on defense. I can trade away Hampus Lindholm, who's regressed to an 83, give him 3 first-round picks because I'm going all in for this cup run. And let's see what Philadelphia has to say. We're quite far off in value, apparently. What about another first-round pick? What do they have to say then? Trade accepted. There we go. 4 first rounds. And we get Drysdale. For the trade deadline, we have Marco Rossi, Culp, Kempe on the first line, Doc, Quinn, Terry, Greg, Kaliev, and Perot, Strom, Suzdalev, and Hemming. And on defense, we got Jamie Drysdale with Keandre Miller, Barron and Dursey, Wilkinson, and Lundqvist to round it off. So we're going to try to make it to the playoffs and hopefully make a run in the playoffs to put an end to this wonderful series of the Indiana Steel. And here you have it. We are in the playoffs for this final season at 50 wins, 25 losses, and 7 overtime losses at 107 points, second in the Central. That puts us third in the West. So we'll see how we can do in the playoffs. So we will be facing the Winnipeg Jets. They have Perfetti with Connor and Scheifele, Barlow with Leclerc and Ritchie, Rensfeldt with Iafallo and Martone, Foodie with Meyers and Heponiemi. On defense, Morrissey with Pesci, Clegg with Brandstrom, Fleury with Pionk. So their defense is rough. But in nets, they have Hellebuck at 85 and Akira Schmid at 83. Based on what I'm seeing, we should take care of the Jets, no problem. And they were our last game of the season where we won 4-3. So let's see what we can do. Okay, so we're down 2-1. We lost 5-3 twice, and then we had a 4-3 win. Okay, we were back in this series 2-2, 3-2, and we are going to game 7. And why not do one last real-time sim? Connor for Winnipeg. So it looks like we have an uphill battle here to end this series. If we cannot win this game, it will be the end of the Indiana Steel. We need anybody to get us on the score sheet at this point. And there we go. Dursey gets us on the score sheet. It's 1-1. Ridley Gregg follows it up 2-1 to finish off the first. For the second period. Winnipeg ties it up on the power play. Scheifele makes it 2-2. And they take the lead 3-2 with Barlow scoring on Wolf. All right, heading into the third, down by 1. And there we go. Miller ties it up 3-3. And Kaliev gives us the lead with 6 minutes left. It's 4-3 Indiana. But we could not hold them off, and Scheifele gets a second power play goal, and Perfetti puts the nail in the coffin of our Indiana Steel. We are out in the first round of the playoffs with a Game 7 loss to Winnipeg. And unfortunately, that will do it for your Indiana Steel. That was the last game in their franchise. Let's take a look at who wins the cup. And there you have it. We lost to the eventual cup winners, the Winnipeg Jets, and the Calder Cup champions are the Charlotte Checkers. And one last look at the playoff tree. The Winnipeg Jets deserved to win the cup. They took care of us, the Indiana Steel. They then went on to win in Game 7 against the top-ranked team, Chicago Blackhawks. They then took care of the Vancouver Canucks and then absolutely swept the Ottawa Senators in the Cup Finals. Good on them. As for the awards in this last season, Winnipeg Jets with the Cup, Canucks with the Presidents, Jets with the Clarence Campbell, and the Senators with the Prince of Wales. Art Ross to Svechnikov, Hart Memorial to Svechnikov, Hughes with the Norris, Svechnikov with the Lady Byng, Sejna with the Calder, Connor with the Conn Smythe, Augustine with the Vezina, Demko with the William Jennings, Ottavainen with the Bill Masterton, Jack Adams to Salcido, Bedard with the Selke, Svechnikov with the Ten Lidzi, and Bedard with the Maurice Richard. So Bedard gets his first Maurice Richard trophy. So, as I said, this was the last season for the Indiana Steel. I want to thank everybody who watched this series. I had a blast doing it, and I wanted to give it a proper ending. I know it's not much, and it's kind of just fast-forwarded, but hey, I just wanted to put one last episode together before NHL 25 comes out. That will be coming out tomorrow. I won't be doing anything for the first week, I believe. I still have my College 25 series with the Northern Pines Grizzlies that I'm going to be doing. So, once again, thanks everyone for watching. Leave a like if you like this video. Subscribe if you're new. Let me know what you thought of this series and what I should be doing different for NHL 25. Once again, have a good one, and I'll see you in the next series.